But have you written, or perhaps this is a matter for the Minister rather than the Department, but have you approached the newspaper involved and said, well, you've made an issue of this, here's the real thing, and perhaps you could pop this on your website as well, just so that anyone following this might understand just how trifling most of the alleged complaints were?
I don't know that we find it entirely productive to go down that path as dispassionately as we might try to with The Guardian. Chair, what I will say, and members of the relevant division might assist me in this, we took, as you would expect us to, action at the time of publication to inquire of them whether they had any further details that they could maybe share with us. They'd chosen to make certain information publicly available through their website. I think, as Assistant Commissioner Woodford-Smith said earlier, we did reach out to say, well, would it be possible for you to share with us the unredacted report so we can get a better alignment of what the incident reports as, not as published, but as you know, the documents sitting behind the redacted version, so we can align those with our own holdings. I think it's fair to say, and if you need to, Kingsley, refer to others, but I think it's fair to say that The Guardian were not willing to collaborate or cooperate in that manner. Is that fair?
That's fair to say.
So they've published these allegations but aren't prepared to give you sufficient information for you to look into them?
Yes.
That's the situation?
Yes.
Okay. I regret to think that we might pursue this matter again in another committee as the years roll on. But it is important. Thank you very much for your information today, which, as I say, really puts the lie to the headlines back when this was released, and shows most of the alleged incidents were trifling of nature.
I really don't think you should be trying to play these down, Chair. I just don't think it's
well,
particularly...
That's your opinion.
Yeah, my word it is. There were some extremely serious allegations
we've heard today that there were 14
child sexual abuse,
14 that were referred to the authorities, of which 3 are still being investigated and 1
child
resulted in
sexual
charge.
abuse allegations.
Well, the Greens always do that when they're on a back foot, you know. Always bring children into it.
Provide
or
decent care and
violence to women. It always sures you get a headline, doesn't it? But it's good to have the truth through this estimate today.
I think you're doing a pretty good job of getting yourself a headline here.
Okay. In which paper?
We're just trying to play down very serious matters.
Well, that's your
Those
thought.
people are basically being tortured over there.
Oh, they're tortured?
Yes.
This is not a debate between Senator McKim and I. This is a Senate Estimates Committee, and we will continue with the questions. Have we ever done an assessment on people at Manus and Nauru on their background? Is it possible to say whether they come from a middle-class background, upper middle class, a lower socio-economic group? Is there any work around that would tell me that, the background of people on these?
Not necessarily in the holdings of the Australian Government for this reason alone, Chair. As we've often canvassed before this committee, the precise mechanism by which persons were transferred to RPCs, either Manus or Nauru, was as a result of two intergovernmental agreements. It involved us doing an initial screening in terms of health, security, character and health and security, I should say. And then once those 2 agreements were put in place, one with Nauru, one with the government of PNG, persons were transferred between our migration jurisdiction and the receiving migration jurisdiction. So all those questions about a person's background, the nature of which might be relevant to their claim of persecution, for instance, it may not be, are really questions that have been determined or looked at by those 2 immigration authorities. So one in Nauru and one in Papua New Guinea.
Okay. And so I was going to ask you, but perhaps you've answered it with that answer, that as situations change in the country of origin, and I assume some of them are from the Middle East, and it seems that if you believe news reports that things are changing by the minute in Syria and Iraq and Iran. My question was going to be, are the authorities who are assessing these things forming views that really refugee status no longer applies because the concern about safety and liberty have been overcome by military actions in these places.
I'll answer it, if I may, in this respect, because I don't wish to speak for officers in those two jurisdictions, but they're decision makers, and we know this because we work with them in terms of providing assistance and capacity building, apply the same fundamental test that's in the 1951 relevant convention, which has been variously codified in both Nauru and PNG law, that a person at the time of their assessment has a well-founded fear of persecution. Our decision makers take a whole range of factors into account when forming a judgment about that question, as no doubt do our colleagues in Papua New Guinea and PNG. But the extent to which they weight different factors and what information they draw upon would really be a matter that I would need to refer to the authorities of those two governments.
Yeah. Okay. Look, thanks for that. I just, as I said in my role as chair, your opening statement was very wide and very informative, and I do thank you for that. I just wanted to refer to the